All right, viewers, again, those visuals coming in right now, Republic TV viewers, where you can see that the Prime Minister is on a historic state visit to Brunei, marking the first ever bilateral trip by the Indian Prime Minister to the Southeast Asian nation. And after the historic visit, the Prime Minister will visit Singapore as part of a two-nation tour. The Prime Minister Modi had a short while ago met the Sultan of Brunei, and the Sultan is the second longest reigning monarch in the world after the late Queen Elizabeth II. The Prime Minister said in a post on X that delighted to meet His Majesty Sultan. Our talks were wide-ranging and including ways to further cement bilateral ties between our nations. We are going to further expand trade ties, commercial linkages, and people-to-people exchanges. PM Modi and the Sultan have met for the first time on the sidelines after the first time that they met on the sidelines of the 25th ASEAN Summit. They're meeting again. And they've also met in 2017 at the East Asia Summit held in Manila. The PM's historic visit coincides with the 40th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Brunei. The Prime Minister and the Sultan engaged in very important bilateral discussions focusing on areas. So the important areas that they are discussing are defense, trade, investment, energy, space technology, and health. The two nations could also be very, very likely to sign many MOUs, which will lead to a better understanding between the two countries. And next on the agenda is the Prime Minister will depart for Singapore. Those are the visuals coming in, viewers, where we're getting you top updates. I'm just going to go across to my colleague, Senior Executive Editor Abhishek Kapoor is joining us. Abhishek, if you could walk us through these visuals which are coming in. This is a historic visit of the Prime Minister.
Well, yes. So Prime Minister is in Brunei, Dar es Salaam. This is Istana Nurul Iman, the palace of the Sultan, and Prime Minister getting audience with His Majesty Hasanlal Bolkiah, and you rightly mentioned longest ruling Sultan. Brunei happens to be a small princely state and at the tip of the South China Sea, and that's the significance, the geostrategic significance of this. The fact that in the last 40 years of our diplomatic relationship with Brunei, Dar es Salaam, no Indian leader of ever visited this princely state kingdom. Speaks volumes about the neglect, and the Prime Minister really plugging that gap. If you look at it, Prime Minister, when he came to power in 2014, changed the Look East policy into Act East, with extra focus and energy being pushed in to our neighborhood to the east, not just the immediate neighborhood, but even Far East. And so if you look at this, marks the 10 years of the Act East policy of the Modi government, and within a span of 3 months of him taking over for the third term, we have seen bilateral visits of the Prime Minister of Vietnam and the Prime Minister of Malaysia, which happened back-to-back last month. Prime Minister of Malaysia this month itself, and Prime Minister himself is visiting Brunei now and is going to be landing in Singapore today, and so that really gives you an idea of the kind of focus on Act East has been, because of which there has been a tremendous fillip over India's overall trade. It was part of East policy only, Shivangi, that India had invited the leaders or heads of states or heads of government of all the 10 ASEAN countries as the chief guest collectively for India's Republic Day festivities and the Republic Day parade on that time Rajpath and now Kartavya Path in 2018. And since then, we have seen India's bilateral trade with ASEAN countries almost doubled from about $65 billion in 2015, when the Look East policy was converted into Act East, to about $120 billion last year, could be more this year. And India's exports, in fact, have grown. Remember, these are Southeast Asian tiger economies. And in that scenario, for India's exports to be growing from about $31 billion or about $28 to $25 billion at that time to $44 billion last year, which should be about $47 billion now. And that really gives you an idea of the kind of success the Act East policy has achieved, and whatever gaps were there. For example, in this case, Prime Minister or no Prime Minister of India having visited Brunei despite diplomatic relationship getting plugged with Narendra Modi. I mean, despite the fact that it's a very small country, just about 500,000 people, 5,000 odd square kilometers, and in terms of population, effectively one-third of Goa, and yet it's an independent kingdom and a country, and in a very important geography. As I mentioned, the tip of the South China Sea. Brunei also has problems with China's claims of the entire South China Sea, and exclusive economic zone is denied by China. So in that sense, this is a significant visit of the Prime Minister panning out. It's not just about optics, it's about message, if you look at it from a geopolitical point of view. And later, of course, after this audience with Sultan His Majesty Hasanlal Bolkiah, there would be delegation-level talks, of course, exchange of MOUs like it happens, a joint statement. Then, of course, the Sultan is hosting a banquet lunch in honor of the Prime Minister, immediately after which he would be emplaning for Singapore and reaches there by about 4:10 p.m. India time. And in fact, immediately he heads into a restricted talk with the Prime Minister Lawrence Wong of Singapore. So a packed day for Prime Minister. He has, remember, landed just only yesterday afternoon in Brunei. It's less than 24 hours, and he would be leaving straight for Singapore immediately after the luncheon, which is being hosted by the Sultan of Brunei.
All right, thank you so much for joining us there, Abhishek, getting us top updates coming in. PM Modi in Brunei, and we can expect very important MOUs to be signed today. It's a historic visit of the Prime Minister. This is a historic visit marking the first ever bilateral trip by an Indian Prime Minister to the Southeast Asian nation of Brunei. All right, so visuals coming in right now, viewers, of this is day 2 of the tour with the PM Modi has met the Sultan of Brunei. The Sultan is the second longest reigning monarch in the world, and you can see that there are bilateral meetings taking place where the key focus is definitely going to be, like Abhishek told us, a senior executive editor, defense, trade, investment, energy, space technology, and health. And after these important meetings, important MOUs are due to be signed.